Jim Watson, Doris Watson's husband, found the films when she thought her secrets were safe. Doris cheats on multiple men, including hotel manager Ryan Donovan. Jim and Hugh Hart seek frigid revenge, and Bill Nelson, Doris's new husband, steals everything. The day was calm. Thankfully, those days are over. My business is profitable. Hart and Bowman private investigator Hugh Hart here. We overcame the early years and have had a great 6 years. I decided to clean my PC today. The old files required to be preserved on our server. We spend a lot of time collecting footage for our widely utilized work. I immediately checked the files on my screen and realized that if you're not careful, you may have several movies with empty parking. I was drawn to one. Doris Watson. Doris is the most memorable. She first grew my business. In my years in this industry, I've met many people, but Doris is one of the most ruthless. I had no idea why her file was in my active folder. I opened the folder. Each file was video. Thursday yesterday was the last. I pressed play. Doris held the camera with a man. She was on all fours with him behind her. With her head on the mattress and leftward glance, she looked at him. He quickly turned the camera to their antics. Doris seemed to enjoy herself. Her smartphone was clearly in use. This camera. She enjoyed customized vids. Looked at the screen after pausing the video. 13 films were from a few days ago. I called Jim Watson. He demanded an investigation into his wife's adultery. I glanced up and phoned Jim. Jim, Hugh Hart. Hugh, yes indeed. I haven't heard from you lately. I think it's been almost 6 years. That seems about right. Hugh, may I inquire? Why call me now? I prefer not discussing it on the phone. I noticed Doris vids recently. Her condition left little to the imagination, therefore I wish to talk about them. The phone rang dead. I waited since I knew he could struggle with this. He spoke up finally. Her biggest joy seems to be attention. Had she not, she would have stopped this. Curious to discover more. Want to have lunch? Consider 3rd Street Burger King. The first'll pay. Hugh, you never change. You can't expect me to trust you if I pay for fast food. By whom should I be believed? Getting you to pay would be nice. I'm just trying to help, he snorted quietly, nearly laughing. Like every day. How about noon? Would 12.30 work instead? I need to review what I have to have an intelligent conversation. It will take more than an hour and a half. I laughed too. Jim. It's good to hear you laughing. I hope all is well with you. I'll see you at 12:30. I saw a lot, but I didn't learn anything. Most things about Doris I already knew. At the agency, our main job is to determine if a spouse is cheating. Most of the time we find out they are, but sometimes it's about two people who aren't meant to be together. Divorce benefits both parties in some situations. I watched the tapes and thought of the Watson divorce. Doris is nasty, but she's attractive and has a great sense of stagecraft. I kept myself busy to calm down before leaving work. I wanted to tell Jim everything. Jim was seated and eating his burger. Someone even after that. A woman acquaintance at work introduced me to a widow with 2 young children. In March of last year, 3 years ago, we married. I have 3 amazing kids now. There has never been a better life. 3? Yes, our one and hers too. 1 guy and 2 daughters. He declared, the boy is mine. Excited about being around other people. That's more important to her than using her intelligence to avoid danger. Have you shown her any of the films we downloaded into her phone? I didn't. She just shut down and wouldn't talk when I asked her about it. I started the divorce process and gave the mayor's wife 1 video. Doris was called a troublemaker, and Hart and Bowman became the center of attention. We all know what happened next, but Doris was furious when I showed the film to the mayor's wife. I had no right to pry into her personal life, she said. It seemed unbelievable to me. Is that what infuriated her? No, I said. I told her that recording oneself would not grant her privacy. It's not acceptable to claim that she can check her phone anymore. Don't you worry that you may get in trouble? Yes, Bowman claims that he can remove the app remotely, as if he could break into her phone at night and remove it. I think a specialist could find it, but she's unlikely to ask. Like that. I'll remove the app. You were still with her when I put it on your phone. I neglected to remove it. We erased it along with all the newly generated files as soon as I discovered my error. Now I'm positive I won't get into any problems. That's all I can ask. We'll have to find another way. Loss. Her spouse enjoyed watching her interact with other guys. Most of the interactions he videotaped were intended only for him. It wasn't just words. She even threatened to give the media access to the footage, claiming they would support her allegations. Jim never understood how little attention her story received. Perhaps 6 more said he'd approached them, but they'd turned him down. Anyone investigating Jim's past found a model of conduct, but friends and relatives ignored Doris' advice. Jim was deeply humiliated by her persistent remarks. Though they didn't believe her, they did question why she would make herself stand out by saying such things. Nobody could understand why she wanted to gain attention, especially if her goal was. After he made his decision, Doris reported him on her own, saying his odd actions were as wrong as infidelity. Even those around her stopped to consider it because she seemed so confident in herself, which was surprising and hard to understand. I saw Jim get depressed, then even more so. These new films appeared out of nowhere, and I had to figure out how to help Jim balance the score. Doris brought what she found into my office. It had been over 2 years since she had been single, and not much had happened in her life. She is now married to William F. Nelson and goes by Doris Nelson. He has been a vice president at Acme International for 5 years. Doris is 38, and he is 62. She quit her job right before their wedding. Nelson arrived in town as the mayor's problem subsided. He was looking for a woman who would fulfill him and make him proud. She met these 2 requirements. He's in his 60s now and can't keep up with her. She's gone back to her old habits. There were 3 men in the videos, nearby tavern, but he appeared younger. I came up with a concept. I awaited a call from Jim. It was only 2 days. He and his new wife both wanted to look after her. We discussed that. Jim's wife was devoted to him and had spent many hours helping him recover from Doris's abuse. Doris was the last person she would ever want to hurt, in publicity, and made us famous. I can't spend time trying to figure out this mystery person right now because I'm so busy. I'll compensate you for your time if you drop your pricing a little. That sounds like a great idea. Fine. Every Wednesday at noon and Thursday at 3 o'clock she meets this guy. We can follow her to see if we find anything. I went to a hotel with her on Thursday. The manager was her mystery man, to my surprise. He handed her a key and disappeared into the back room as she entered the office. As the first man went to greet Doris, another emerged to take his place. 2 hours later, he returned with a beaming smile. I entered the motel's office. Ryan's expression changed. A video? Not in my case. Ryan, you and Doris Nelson were in room 134. The last 5 times you were with her, you recorded them on her phone. Let's not act like it never happened. Oh my goodness, please. I can't let this happen. My spouse and I are married. I work here to finish my MBA. Yes, he answered. Jim agreed when I called him about my new idea. According to my strategy, Ryan should say he kept certain films and reproduced others. This was blackmail or persuasion. We'd hide his identity. I could use video proof without risking my job, and he would avoid consequences. I hated letting Ryan go, but I had to protect myself. A few days passed. Jim, Ryan, and I met with several people, representatives of both charities. Jim started talking first while we were together. Thank you for coming. It may be hard to hear my news. My ex-wife Doris Nelson is dating married people from both groups. Saying Tom Benson, I pointed to one group. I said, Bill Mason to the other bunch. Jim added, Doris had a brief romance with the mayor at that time a few years back. The news covered it. Besides making odd choices, she likes taping her excursions and watching them anytime she wants. Jim contemplated it. Board members were surprised. Jim continued. One board member, Janice Davis, protested immediately. How do you have this video? Jim turned to Ryan. Joe, can you explain it to them? Ralph Williams, another participant, said. We appeared to Ryan as Joe Smith. Though ordinary, it hid his actual identity. I bought the films Jim talked about. I'm thankful to these men for helping me keep my identity a secret. I use Miss Nelson's phone to capture videos since we're both participating. We want to harm as few people as possible, I added. We don't want any issues to negatively impact your fantastic companies. We want Doris to take responsibility for her deeds. She should be removed from both boards, and her husband should be informed. I was accepted by everyone, and I went on. I have a quick film for every board. They focused on me for 5 seconds while listening. I asked Joe's permission to go. He was applauded by everyone and seemed happier as he left. We then had a lively discussion. Charity leaders were upset. Scandals destroy charities. They wanted Doris and the men to pay. Such a possibility was contemplated. Just notify, they advised, everyone at the next public meeting because they were upset. Jim's idea was much inferior than mine. Thankfully, everyone calmed down and supported our approach. Jim finally got what he wanted. Both boards sent 2 people to visit the male board member's residence. They discussed the affair and showed his wife the footage. This caused 2 splits. After that, I visited Mr. Nelson with both organizations' executives. We explained and showed him the 2 short flicks. Nelson was enraged. Doris promised not to repeat her history, which he knew. He protected himself with a prenuptial agreement. With a sad laugh, he said, "That stupid woman never even looked at it. Mistake. Here, winters are pleasant. She can handle living under a bridge." I sought a private conversation. Bill led them to the waiting room and thanked everyone for notifying him privately. Returning inside, he said, "How can we help each other? Please allow me to ask." Jim Watson was my client. Jim is a kind, honest man who always helps others. Meeting him for 15 minutes may make you friends. How Doris treats you today is how she treated him. That's annoying. Not unexpected since she told me she was in a relationship. Connection with Mayor. I think she ignored the videos. I told him about Doris's pursuit of Jim and my anxiety that she would follow suit. Hugh, I understand, but not like that, even if Jim looks lovely. This treatment never makes me happy. Doris did that to me, and it's unacceptable. You discovered her phone, which is great. Since I told him the news will be disclosed tomorrow, he needed to talk to her now. He appeared to like my idea for accomplishing that. He shook my hand and remarked, "Hugh, you are one of a kind," as we parted. "Your work will please your prior client." Hearing that made me thrilled. I knew he saw my smile. Much obliged. That matters to me. Business success requires going above and beyond for customers. After asking for my business cards, he stated he knew a few groups that needed investigations. With a bigger smile, I left. In the evening, a drink was served to the Nelsons after dinner. A knock on the door surprised them. Each went to react. When they opened the door, Jim Watson was there. She tried to close the door, but her husband stopped her. "Doris, I came here to personally advise you that you are no longer a member of the 2 important boards you were on." "Why?" "You restarted your problematic behavior." "Behavior?" "I apologize for the vulgarity, but this is about his phone-snapped conversations. You deceive." She faced her hubby. "Bill, this horrible man lies. He lied to get a divorce years before. I guarantee he is a persistent liar." Bill said seriously, "Well, that settles it for you." Mr. Jim smiled. Nelson asked, "Doris, would you please take out your phone and prove to this liar that there aren't any videos like that?" "Bill?" I'm startled. "Are you untrusting of me?" "In contrast, my darling, I trust you. You signed the agreement without reading it, swearing never to do it." Nelson handed Doris the phone he had been holding in his back pocket. Doris picked it up quickly. "Why do you have my phone, Bill?" "I've seen the vids already. Jim was the one I wanted to watch you fall." I handed it to Jim. "You've seen her before. I assumed she wouldn't attempt to pretend it was photoshopped. At least I'm just wagering $100. He paused, then faced Doris. "Sorry, I erred. You won't consider $100 a little money in minutes. It will outgrow your stuff." As they talked, he returned her phone. Doris sat on the cold marble floor after a sudden weakness. "Bill's evil laugh might ruin even the best sentiments," Jim said, shaking his hand. "I'll be happier using the prenuptial agreement to reduce dear Doris's affluent life to nothing than mourning her loss." Bill regarded the floor. "Doris, 1 minute left. No need to pack. You cannot own anything here. With your attire, your back left." Jim gave her a money clip. "I regret losing the bet." "You would have done better," he said. The door closed as Jim left. You may question how I know what happened because I wasn't there. Jim was given the tape by Bill because he wanted to record the entire thing. Bill informed the press that Doris had strayed again. He claimed to have purchased her phone and video footage. Doris was unavailable for comment. After Doris disappeared, further facts emerged. He planned to give her $197 from his wallet. He desired her despite thinking she was worth $200. Match anything. Bill seemed unsure how to reply when Doris said something surprising. Her deception cost her almost half of what he offered. I was first upset that serial cheater Ryan Donovan got away with it. Jim only laughed. He said Doris would sense Ryan's weakness. She was found that way. She believed Ryan would pay his portion. Jim was right. Doris and Ryan may be sharing a bridge. We appreciate your video viewing. Subscribe to Infidelity Plus for more captivating retribution and infidelity stories. Turn on alerts to see our latest stuff first.